some stories tonight that some of you will sit there and say, I don't get it. Well, if you don't get it, you need to ask someone about it, because the story is not, community-wide, but the stories are pretty funny, okay? Just a few quotes to keep in mind before tonight's readings. If you can laugh at yourself, you will be fine. If you allow others to laugh with you, you will be great. Laugh loudly, laugh often, and most importantly, laugh at yourself. With that being said, last year we started a new tradition with the reading of the poem. The two main characters of the poem would come up front with me and sit in front of the audience.
In front, yeah.
This year, a special couple has been chosen. Actually, I shouldn't say chosen, because they paid me $50 to be the honored couple. At this time, I'd like to bring up last year's couple to announce the new couple. Last year was Bob and Carrie Linnity. And this year's honored couple is...
Just want to say, last year we got to sit up here on a hot seat and have everybody look at us and hear things about us. So this year, I think it's fair that these people get to have the same experience we did. So I would like to welcome Carl and Agnes Kugler.
You made fun of us.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks. Go ahead, stay there.
One's here, one's here. You had a good look at him. Remember, laugh at yourself. Okay, first a little disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are among those of secret elves whose names will remain anonymous. Whistleblowers will not be named to help keep their identity private and protect them from retaliation. Most of the statements are from third-party witnesses and can be described as hearsay. They do not necessarily represent the position of the author. It should be quite obvious that Double Diamond has not approved, endorsed, embraced, or authorized this poem. It has not been reviewed by the PC police, and much of it can be considered fake news. You can expect most of the content to be banned on Facebook and Instagram, but not Twitter. If the cancel culture crowd gets a hold of it, I can expect them to be at my door after this reading. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the reading of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" in Eagle Rock. 'Twas the night before Christmas, Eagle Rock all aglow, with a brand new brick oven to bake chef's pizza dough. New pickleball courts installed for good reason, with many new players waiting for the spring season. The stockings were hung, a note written on one, "Congrats to Pam Burke for her marathon run." The drinks they were flowing, and that's no baloney, at Casa Cernuda with Kathy and Tony. Our Diane Picciotto was all snug in her bed, with visions of pierogies dancing all through her head. Her cardboard box search had come to a close, getting all of them for free. Good job, I suppose. Carl Kugler and his jammies, wife Agnes and hers too, had just settled down for a much-needed nap. Now, I know the word nap does not rhyme with two, but I don't want to get canceled. What else could I do? Carl checked to make sure that his pants were on right. Sometimes they're on backwards. What a side-splitting sight. When outside their window, as if right next door, came some very weird sounds, Agnes listened for more. The noise could be heard through the trees and beyond, like a car being driven into Eagle Rock's pond. Agnes jumped out of bed and ran down the hall, knocked over Carl's golf bag and stepped on his balls. She took a good spill and had a bump on her head, but Carl just laid there like a big hunk of lead. She yelled at him, "Carl," as she rose from the floor, but he did not move and continued to snore. We've got to find out what's all the commotion, but Carl just yawned and moved in slow motion. Agnes put on her robe and went to the phone, gave a call to Jim Sebia, but he was not home. The security guards were next on her list, but they were out driving, so that call was missed. She called Carrie Bogart and let out a big sigh. Agnes left her a voicemail, but got no reply. She wandered about now, still sore from the fall, wondering if she'd be ready for next year's bocce ball. Agnes now heard some voices. There was all kinds of chatter, so she ran to the window to see what's the matter. Outside it was dark, so she barely could see. Agnes knew they were out there, but who could it be? She calmed herself down. Agnes wasn't quite steady and saw someone moving. Could it be Golf Ball Eddie? She heard plenty of laughter. Sounded like they'd been drinking, like our party gals. At least that's what I'm thinking. Sherry Frank could be out there giving snowmobile lessons. Should have signed herself up for a few of those sessions. Could it be Gary Alters out chasing a bear without any clothes on? Was this some kind of dare? I can't bear to think what a big bear might do to a bare-ass old man wearing nothing but shoes. Was it those hearing aid hackers out playing around? Although not that it matters, because they can't hear a sound. Was it those skirt-wearing ladies, Mary, Becky, and Ann? A great cause to support. Please donate if you can. I was told that next year, but I won't place a bet, that they'll also wear t-shirts, ones for sure that are wet. The noise had subsided. Agnes still wasn't sure. Could it be all those people from the Christmas house tour? She rubbed at her eyes to make sure she was right. Seems the fall she had taken now affected her sight. What really was there, now so perfectly clear, was a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver and 2 elves, oh so merry, resembling the dolls, that's our Frank and Terry. With a red velvet coat and a hat, not a hoodie. As a matter of fact, it looked like Chaz Woody. He's dropped a few pounds, so he's no longer chubby. That's because Annie, his wife, cooks good meals for her hubby. He's since now retired from donning the suit, taking over Jim Lemke with Bernadette, oh so cute. Agnes's eyes, she was sure, were not playing a trick. She now knew for certain that it must be St. Nick. To avoid all those potholes, Santa stayed on the roofs so the poor little reindeer wouldn't injure their hooves. The reindeer were anxious, just wanting to fly, but St. Nick, he just calmed them with the wink of his eye. Like the Eagle Rockers might do when they turn up the sound, Santa called out so loudly, each name was profound. Nell Molnar and Leahy, go Chiswick and Babbitt. The reindeer revved up like the Energizer rabbit. On Crossland, on Ebner, go Freecott and Stark. And with Rudolph up front, they did not fear the dark. They flew very smoothly and oh so gent-like, just like Mike Faneri when he's riding his bike. No cost would be spared, they certainly weren't misers. They'd be traveling the world very much like the Kaisers. Agnes now heard a noise from up on her roof, the pawing and tapping of each little hoof. They danced and they pranced through the fog and the haze, like our Kathy Clark back in her disco days. And all of a sudden, there came such a sound. Down the chimney came Santa, the house shook all around. She ran down the stairs, just a little bit wary. Was it maybe Dan Bruno or Big John McCary? Agnes looked at the figure, his face all aglow, all covered in soot from his head to his toes. A handle of presents he had flung on his back, looking like Lori Fayok with her large mail sack. Carl had left him some cookies from which he could choose, and a bottle of bourbon, that's Carl's favorite booze. He looked at his list and was perfectly clear that the Eagle Rock residents had been good all this year. He had brought lots of gifts for the young and the old, plus a whole bunch of stories that he thought should be told. He started things off by reading a card, saying thanks to those people that had worked really hard. Thanks to Jim Sevia for all that you do. Keeping Eagle Rock running is not easy to do. To our caring network, a big round of applause. Just to so many people, they are like Santa Claus. Thanks to our chef, the phenomenal Artie. I guess you know why he got to cater this party. For Miss Courtney Miley and the whole clubhouse crew, many thanks for your service. We know just what to do. Again, thanks to Nick Rossi, and don't forget Ken. The bocce season was fun. They did a great job again. We are grateful to Ginny and her wonderful crew for planning the house tour. Wouldn't work without you. And finally, Dave Nettleton and his wife Maggie too were all invited to their house when this party's through. He looked again at his notes and grinned ear to ear. Much had happened in Eagle Rock throughout this past year. We did have our tastings of Scotch bourbon and wine with Blue Mountain Soul, the music divine. Our first family campout was quite a big hit, with Mark Cook singing songs around a big fire pit. The Independence Day parade was almost rained out, but the fireworks went off. Of that, there's no doubt. Down at the pavilion on the 4th of July, we played Name That Tune, and our spirits were high. The luau was back, with pigs on display, and the guys were all happy that they got a nice leg. Entertainment provided by our own Tim Sage, who won the dance contest up there on the stage. He worked his ass off with his own hula dance, and Marcia Young was just happy he did not lose his pants. Next year, if he dances and is still on a roll, we'll make sure that he gets his own personal pole. Our Becky Pandolfi had the golf shot of the year, coming back out of the woods and then hitting a deer. Phil Mickelson has mastered in golf the flop shot, and at bowling box, Bob Stockel had one you should not. And finally, aerobics, still held in our pool, with many new members who thought it was cool. Hank Coleman was one, a tight suit he does wear. Thank God for the shrinkage, so nobody will stare. That's what they told me, I don't know. Before giving out gifts, it was now getting late. He congratulated those who did something great. Congrats to Doug Weiser. He placed #1, winning Family Feud. All the players had fun. Some new bocce champs were crowned once again, with Rolling Stones winning against a team just with men. To Dale and Kathy, repeat champs once again. In mixed doubles bocce, can I get an amen? The Weisers were champs on Goofy Bocce Ball Day. Gretchen sure was the star. She sure knows how to play. Prognosticator champs, that's June Seeley and Wayne. If you need stock predictions, you can now pick their brains. He bent over his sack now and untied the laces. It was time to poke fun. He tried to cover all bases. The gifts that he had were all just for fun. They aren't meant to be nasty, so don't come undone. For Donna Gramkowski, some new games of Wordle to play with her friends, ones I'm sure they can hurdle. For my neighbor Jack Donahue, a Red Ryder rifle. Beware all you groundhogs, your actions you'll stifle. A National Parks Pass Chris Coleman will get if she could only pronounce them. No problem, no sweat. California, her first choice, to a wonderful sight with waterfalls and valleys to that place, Yosemite. Did I get that right, Carl?
Oh, yeah.
A big ice skating rink with a brand new Zamboni. Not happening here, that story's just phony. Some new scuba gear, of which CK is fond, when he loses his golf balls and falls in the pond. A speedy recovery for Cheryl's new shoulder. She needs it for pickleball, it sucks getting older. For Bob Bruno, a gift card to buy some new tools. His Christmas tree ornaments are always so cool. For our secret squirrel, some nuts in a box. When Joe's playing the keyboards, the place really rocks. A new book of reptiles for Diane Lundquist to take. She enjoys all the species, especially the snakes. Some bright flashing lights for Janice Shome's hair, so the hawks stay away and don't give her a scare. Some new drone equipment for our friend Bob Blaze Call to take more aerial photos in spring, summer, and fall. For Bob Overbeck and Oven to make more of his cakes, what a talent he has and the patience it takes. Some new porta potties on the 18-hole course. Women don't need to pee in the woods, says my source. Some unbreakable lug nuts for Bernadette in her gym, getting stuck down at Costco's with no tires on the rim. And finally, a video for our Laura Lee, with Hank Coleman as Tom Jones. It's one you'll all want to see. His gyration is so sexy, but don't get too close. Just ask Laura Lee with her red bloody nose. She got so excited, Hank said, "Throw me your bra." "I'm not wearing one, Hank." He just stood there in awe. Before leaving the scene, he had one last goodbye to some people we'll miss, and that's sure not a lie. Andre Garabedian and Mike Miller, too, have left us too soon. There's not much we can do. They're all resting up in heaven, or we're all up in heaven, resting now in God's arms, with a wonderful view and free from all harm. It was time now to leave, but before Santa did, he was reminded of something he was taught as a kid. The words that he spoke were still etched in his mind. Be nice to your neighbors, to others be kind. Santa flew up the chimney and got back in his sleigh. Then he gave the command, up, up, and away. You could hear him so clearly as he drove out of sight. Merry Christmas to Eagle Rock, and to all a good night.